Take a few minutes to get settled, if you will. Become aware that you are in the presence of pure being. There is nothing but God here, only God. God is our good, God is our love, God is our joy, God is the fountain of our youth. And so when we touch love, we touch joy, we touch presence, we touch sacredness, and we touch this moment, we are touching God. We are grateful in this sacred space, this sacred community. And we give of our individual lives so that collectively we may all stay illuminated. We affirm that the presence and the power of God is here. And so we allow our personality to decrease and we allow the presence of God to bless and heal and speak. We affirm that God is all-knowing, so we allow the knowingness of God to reveal to us our next steps. We speak blessings on those that are on the way here. We call forward our energy back that we've given out on this week, knowing that we are good enough and the work has done what it needed to do. We speak blessings on our tomorrows, knowing that who we need to be tomorrow is already empowered. And so we allow the presence of God to flow freely throughout this building, healing us and blessing us, enriching us and empowering us, stirring us to agency, and blessing the divine idea known as Unity of Birmingham. And for this and so much more, we are grateful. Collectively, we say amen, and so it is.
Good morning, Unity family. We're going to prepare for a time of meditation. The topic of today's meditation is order. The disciple is James, son of Alphaeus. The physical location in the body is the navel or solar plexus. The corresponding color is forest green. So as we prepare for a time of meditation, you may want to sit comfortably with your spine erect and your feet planted, and lay aside things from your lap. I invite you to gently close your eyes, and with one hand on your belly or solar plexus and one hand on your heart, let's try a few cleansing breaths together. Breathing in and breathing out. Again, breathing in and release. Once more, breathing in divine order, hold, and releasing all chaos. Lowering your hands to your lap, let's return to the natural breath. Centering in our awareness of the intelligence of the universe, expressing through each of us as us. With each breath, we expand, relaxing and expanding more and more with each exhale. We expand into this infinite spaciousness all around us. Only peace and spaciousness. The disciple James represents the harmony and balance, always available through receptivity to guidance from the Christ within. All the time we witness order in nature's rhythms. Plants and all other life forms automatically align to it As conscious living beings, are we not also nature, but with power to choose to align to nature's rhythm, or struggle against it, paddling upstream, suffering, which is also divine order, because we know there is no spot, where God is not, there's no separation. Nature is fascinating, a great teacher. There's violence in the food chain, or trees appearing dead in winter, but blossoming beautifully in spring. So even nature is not entirely pretty or easy, but it's orderly for sure. For us, divine order is an inside job, starting first within our own minds, our own consciousness, then extending outward into expression in our relationships and affairs. Divine order helps us discern our true north, navigating through the randomness in which we all exist, to hone in with clarity and purpose to the big picture of our existence. Romans 12, verse 2 reminds us, do not imitate the way of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds, that you may discern what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Through our centering in the silence, we come to see the forest and the tree, and how a single tree can, through practice, come to humbly express the whole forest. Let us sit down with a gentle smile and a few moments in the silence. Accepting the sounds. Coming back, let's conclude our meditation by affirming together, I am one with life and all of nature. I am gratefully aware that life supports me and is never against me. I allow life's wisdom to gently guide me. Namaste, y'all.
ocean blue. Here the tropic sun grows cold, till this young world grows old. My Lord, I adore you.
Take a couple deep breaths with me just to relax and rest in the presence of God, the presence of good. Just in that same spirit, take a few moments for yourself. After giving to everyone else on this week and giving out, take a few moments just for you. Myrtle Fillmore says, and let God help you. At some point, you have to let go of trying to understand it all. Just rest. Rest your mind in the presence of God until spiritual faculties open up naturally on their own. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to understand it all. Let your mind rest. And then God in you will reveal to you everything you need to know. In this sacred space, I want you to imagine it all working out for your good. Imagine you being infinitely guided. Imagine that the world is not against you, but for you, according to the meditator. Assume the feeling, Neville Goddard, of the wish fulfilled. In this moment, imagine what it would feel like to have a day of no pain, no back pain, no leg pain, no heart ache. Allow the presence of God to rest in you to such a degree that when you make contact, and in the case that the world breaks your heart, what comes out is God. Allow the formative nature of life to do its perfect work. For no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment, God in you shall condemn. You are infinitely guided, infinitely protected. Know in this moment the good that comes to you is God. The love that comes to you is God. The money that comes to you and through you is God. All you meet is God. So when you make contact with God, you are meeting in principle anything and everything that you could possibly need. So you get behind in this moment effects and you identify your oneness with cause. You are the cause. Life is the effect. You are the cause. People are the effect. You are the cause. The material world is the effect. You are one with God, my friends. Know this like the skin that's on your body. That you are enough, you're powerful, you are capable, and God within you will work it out. Come back to the room after this treatment and collectively say with me, and so it is. Let's send this energy out to those that are watching online. Point your hands at the camera and say with me, divine love, in us, blesses and multiplies all that you hear, all that you see, all that you are. Know in this moment, you are loved and you are safe. And so it is. Our ministry is supported by partners like you. To make your gift online, log on to unitybham.org and click on giving. Say with me, amen. Amen. Good morning again, good friends. I want you to take a second before we go deep into the message on this morning and just kind of look around the room and just take a deep breath. Inhale the divine idea known as Unity of Birmingham. And say this with me. We did this.
We did this.
We come here on Sunday mornings as individuals and we sit together as community. And although we go back out into the world as individuals, we're leaving with God and we're leaving with the love of a community. So in case we forgot on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, in case we woke up on accident on Thursday and felt like nobody loved us, this is what love looks like. And it has nothing to do with the size of the room, with the number of chairs that are here, or the number of people that are here. The fact that someone else is here and they're sitting beside you. Nothing happens on accident. You are here by design. The intelligence and the mind and the consciousness that we identify as God, that thing brought you here today. And it didn't bring you here just by happenstance. Before I get into the message, just think deeply about that. Where did you come from? I'm from Sumter, South Carolina. How did I get all the way in Birmingham, Alabama? That is God. Say this with me. God sent me.
God sent me.
So if God sent you, then provision is already made. So there's nothing to worry about, nothing to fear. You don't lose anything. Things move out of your way after they serve their purpose. Ooh, that's too tough. Let me clean. No, I'm not going to clean it up. Let that stay there. Marinate on that. Sometimes God just kind of moves things out of the way. But here's the thing. If God sent you, then the provision is already made. So whenever there's an appearance of lack, you just make contact with the source. But look around you. I mean, God did this. This is a divine idea in the mind of God. God brought you here today, and you here, and you here. The intelligence that we call God is powering this camera. The intelligence that we call God is giving me the ability to articulate what I believe God is sharing with me to tell you. That, my friends, is powerful. And you know what? You can trust that. You can trust that. And that is the thing that sustains you. So when you leave here today, if you don't remember the hug, if you don't remember what the building looked like, if you don't remember anything that I said or the color of my bow tie, if you don't remember anything else, remember what it feels like to be in the presence of God, to be in the presence of other people who are holding the high watch for you and may not even know your name. That is the epitome of divine love. And you take that energy with you as you go out into the world, and it supports you. It's like a blanket that covers you at night when you roll underneath the covers. You know, you got the little leg condition going on off the side of the bed. It gives you insight when you're facing a problem. You just remember this moment. And this is the purpose of Unity of Birmingham. Put your hands together for yourself. Because honestly, this ministry works because of you. And so I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for all the work that you do, from the plumbing issues, I mean, all the way down to, I mean, the building maintenance and the chairs and the landscaping and the music and prayer chaplains, I mean, the sound system. It takes all of us to make this thing work, which is why here at Unity of Birmingham, we are a mission-centric ministry. Our purpose and our goal is to remind people that they are one with God. And through that deep, deep remembrance, there's a stirring that happens in the soul, and it allows you to do something. And here's the thing, that something isn't selfish. God stirs me to go and help you so that you can help someone else and you can help someone else. Sure, we can help ourselves. But think about this. People hurt us, right? So it's also going to take people to bless us so that we can fall in love with humanity again. So God will send you not to help yourself, but to help someone else. Because God in infinite wisdom and in infinite intelligence wanted us all to see that we need each other. Say this with me. I am the face of God.
I am the face of God.
And you too.
And you too.
So we all need each other. We all bring unique expressions and experiences. Even the baby. Suffer little children and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of God. And unless you humble yourself as a child, you can of no wise enter into the kingdom. What is the kingdom? I'm getting to my message in a second if you're watching. Give me a second. What is the kingdom? The kingdom is this awareness. It's this consciousness, this realm of love and joy and peace, and sometimes self-sacrifice. It's this awareness that makes me go to you and ask you, what do you need? What can I do to help you? How can I bless you today? Are you doing okay? Don't ask me about me. That's what this kingdom is. And watch this. This kingdom also helps you to take life seriously, but not literally. So you can be playful as a child. Even if you are in a commercial setting, you can still kick your shoes off and be at home and turn around and look at the sound guy. So I love children. Don't bother that baby. He doing all right. This is how we should be in life. And when we listen to the Spirit, this is how life guides us with that consciousness, which leads me to this month's theme and message. This month's theme, as we are moving towards the end of it, the theme is guidance. But today's topic is my timing and God's timing. Say this with me. My timing.
My timing.
And God's timing.
And God's timing.
That right there is a mouthful, ain't it? It's like, ooh wee. Joel Goldsmith, the writer of The Infinite Way, says that when we are considering our timing and the things that we want to do, the first thing that we have to do is get right with God. We have to get clear about what God is and what God is in us. It's easy to feel God in nature, to feel God and sense the presence of God in other people. But we've got to make contact with God in ourselves, is what Joel Goldsmith says. And when you make contact with God in the self, everything else changes. And so that that wants things now, that has to be done my way, that personal self, it takes a back seat to the consciousness or the life, divine intelligence that is God that shows up in you. Now, Joel Goldsmith, he goes on to say, if you read The Infinite Way, he said he took 8 months to reach that realization. He went through 3 lifetimes to get there to make contact with God. His first lifetime was as a businessman. And we all know what that's like. We go out into the world and stuff happens, and then that spiritual awakening happens, and it draws us closer to this consciousness that we talk about on a day-to-day basis. The second lifetime that he experienced was as a Christian Science practitioner. And the third lifetime was as a follower and a teacher and a practitioner of what he called the Infinite Way. And he reached that final stage when he made contact. And he says, if you study his work, that when he was approaching this consciousness and getting ready to really, really dig deep into what this stuff is all about, he said he counted the time and it took him 8 months. So it was 8 months of meditation and 8 months of practice and 8 months of deep contemplation. Now, why did it take him 8 months? I can't answer that question. You'd have to go ask him yourself. But what I can tell you is that stuff gets in the way. Sometimes it takes time for things to happen, and that time for things to happen isn't a bad thing. The time that it takes for stuff to happen, I found, just in my own personal life, y'all, is because there are parts of Jesse that have to move out of the way. Jesse has to take a back seat. Jesse has to kneel and submit to the presence of God that shows up in this body that I call belonging to Jesse. And when this thing, this individual humanistic human consciousness takes a knee to the life that we know as God, then everything that I feel that I am missing in life, it shows up seemingly on time. Say this with me. It may not come when you want it, but it always comes on time. That's why our ancestors would say that it's an on-time God. Because you realize that you are working with eternity. You are working with substance. So when you are working with eternity and you are stuck on why things have not happened, why the answer has not come, why the guidance has not come, why has things taken so long, it's because that human stuff has gotten in the way. But when that human stuff gets out of the way, that stuff that we call leftover effects, error consciousness, error thinking, when you're on the wrong end of the pool table, you got to get on the opposite side. You have to identify with cause. When the stuff of life shows up and you feel like everything is against you and it breaks you down, it's like, all right, I done did everything else that I want to do. You ever been there? And then right when you are about to give up, right when everything else seems like it's a no, then the answer comes in like a sweeping mighty wind. It walks through the cool of the day and shows up and says, how you doing? And you realize it's been there the whole time. But if you are a serious truth seeker and you do your work, you do your meditation, you do your prayer, your affirmative prayer, and you make contact with God and you, then the distance between what you are praying for and the manifestation of collapses. And you find out that you're no longer waiting. There is no my time anymore. It's all God's time, and everything is in divine order. It shows up when it shows up. It happens when it happened. You're working with eternity. And you got all the time in the world. Say this with me. I ain't never late. Because here's the thing. We're going to talk about my timing and my personal timing. If you were supposed to be at a place earlier than you arrived, then you would have arrived at that time. You arrived at the time that you were supposed to arrive. Because there's no other way, I'm going to say it like Dr. Seuss, you could have gotten there earlier. You can't go back and change things. You can't go back and come in on time. So when you get there is when you get there. Why do we worry so much? Why do we stress ourselves out, right? Why do we try to fix the things that are unfixable? When we settle into God and make contact with God and recognize that our lives are in divine order and we let go of our personal need and our personal attachment for things to manifest the way that we want to, everything in our life balances out. The stress, the worry, the anxiety, the fear, oh, I wish, all the I wish. You know what you could do with a wish sandwich. Everybody got to make a wish sandwich. I wish it would have happened like this. I wish it would have happened like that. When you let go of all of that stuff that shows up through the human consciousness, the human part of you, God takes over. God steps in. Now for Joe Goldsmith, it took him 8 months. But I promise you, that 8 months, when he made contact with God within him, everything else that he needed in his life miraculously showed up and he lived from that vantage point onward. It's the way of the mystic. It's the part of you that you connect with deep on the inside where you are able to look at something like a house that's not quite finished yet. And you are able to see the value of that house even if everyone around you says that that is a mistake to invest in it. You are able to see the money before it comes. You're able to look at a person and see potential when everyone else has given up on them. This is what happens when you let go of that personal, human, my way, my timing. It has to happen the way that I want it to happen. When you tune into God, you start seeing with the eyes of eternity, and you realize that time is an illusion. That you're not missing anything, that things are happening as they are supposed to, and the sooner you get on the side of cause, the effects of life stops beating you up. Come on. And here's the thing. You let go of the self-righteous part of you that's disappointed in people because they didn't live up to your expectations. People aren't going to live up to our expectations because if people would live up to our expectations, then they would lose their individuality. They would lose their God self. They would lose their own personal will. But we all have to come to truth for ourselves, and we all have to live the truth that we know. Say this with me. I live the truth that I know. I can't live the truth you know. I can't talk the way you talk. I can't preach the way you preach. I can't drive the way you drive. I can't dress the way you dress. I have to do what is befitting to me, the best way that I know how to do it. And when we realize that, guess what? We let people go. We allow people to be themselves. You want to know how to keep a bunch of people around you? You allow them to be themselves in your presence. You create a safe space for them. There's no rushing. There's no pushing. Y'all following me? The my doesn't die. It just takes a knee. I'll show you. Sacred text says, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Christ is Lord. You know what that means? Metaphysically, consciously, it means that at some point in your life, the personal mind just takes a knee and it concedes to the power and the presence of God that's within you. And when you make contact with that, you practice doing that every day. You take it with you so it speaks to you. It stimulates your consciousness until inwardly you feel no separation. So the time it takes for you to hear what to do next collapses. The time it takes for you to get an answer collapses. Answers come faster. You know what to do. And during the times where you look at the world and it looks like you're off course, you listen to the still small voice within that tells you, this is the way. Walk in it. You ever been there? Looking at the outside world. It's like, everybody's like, don't do that. That's the wrong thing to do. God's like, nope, stay right there. It's right where I want you. And then everything else catches up and they're like, oh, I see what you were talking about now. It's like, yeah, had I listened to you, I would have missed out on this opportunity. I think I'm talking to somebody today. But when you, it's all in that mind. You see what I'm saying? It's that my timing, my way. Things have to, It's the personal, individual, subjective interpretation of life, which is based on my childhood experiences. That's the thing that sort of takes a knee to God in you, with you, as you. You want to know what God sounds like? Spend time in prayer. Spend time in meditation. And when you make contact, stay there. Don't get up. Oh, I just felt the presence of God. Okay, now I'm going to watch TV. No, stay there. You know why? Because it has to saturate you until you remember what that feels like. And what happens is it permeates your consciousness on the inside. You feel it. You feel it in your bones. It's like, oh, that's what God feels like. That's the felt sense of God. I understand all the metaphysical terms, and those are great. But sometimes you need to know what God feels like when the presence of God wraps itself around your body. And that is the atmosphere that you take with you in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You take that into the world. So when you're doing things out in the world and there's a time constraint, you can tune into that. And that dictates what you should do next. When you're looking to do things in the world in terms of business or relationships or any of that in between, you tune into this presence. And this presence leads you and guides you into all truth. But the mind has to die until the only thing that's left is God's timing. God's timing is called divine order. There's no rushing in that. Emerson says to behold the world in a grain of sand. I've said this 1,000 times. To behold the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower, you can have eternity in your hands and infinity in an hour. Sacred text says a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. That is divine order. So this life, the stuff that shows up in the world of effects, if you are outside of alignment with the God that is in you, with you, as you, the world of effects will beat you down. It's like this happened, that happened, this happens, that happens. But when you identify with cause, you spend time in meditation, you spend time in sacred community, being reminded of what God is, what God feels like, what God sounds like, principle in the soul, all of this stuff. It saturates you. And through that saturation process, you start to identify with cause. And then even if it's raining outside, you go outside and say, stop raining, and the rain stops. I'll tell you a quick story. In the Old Testament, almost done, Elijah had a confrontation with Ahab and Jezebel, and I'm sure you guys remember parts and bits and pieces of that story. But what's most important to this topic is that Elijah walked outside, and it had been a famine in the land. He told his servant to go outside and look because rain is coming. His servant said, I don't see it. Elijah sent him out 7 times. And then finally his servant said, I see it there. It's the size of a man's hand coming out of the sea. And then thunder and lightning came. This is the power that you possess when you spend time with God. The distance between what you are praying for and the manifestation of collapses. Because you stop worrying about it. You put it in God's hands, metaphorically speaking. You give it over. You realize that time is not your enemy. Time is your friend. Am I in the right house?
Yes.
And so Elijah, representing divine consciousness, speaks a word into the world. This is an individual in the story who's not governed by the world of effects. He's not governed by the way things look. He speaks the word and stands on his square, and it comes to pass. Because the individual needs to please people. He sent his servant back 7 times. I want you to really get the picture of this. Go out there, it's about to rain, famine in the land. His servant is like, I don't see it. Because his servant wants to have it immediately. Comes back again. Go out there, it's about to rain. The servant comes back. I still don't see it. He does this 7 times. But Elijah stands firm on what God has said and spoken in his soul. That's what conscious living, spiritual formation does to you. The circumstances of life are used as a formative tool to make you strong. God's not trying to embarrass y'all out here. God's not trying to embarrass us out here. The stuff that shows up in the outside world as effects, I want you to identify with cause. And when you identify with cause, you will find out that you cause effects, not the other way around. You will learn what your power is and where your power is. And stuff starts and stops in your life and in your world when you say so. So you're not waiting on God to do anything for you. Whatever God is going to do, God has already done it. Your job is to decide what you want and then express that divine idea, that God idea, that perfect picture of your life. Declare it. Stand on it. Even if the world outside of you looks like it's the opposite of the mental picture that's in your head. Stand on that word, and I promise you, God and you will bring it to pass. Right. People, places, and things will show up in your world to make it happen. I am a living witness. Sumter, South Carolina to Birmingham, Alabama. God brought me here. The word on my life brought me here. Real quick, my mother is a twin. And 1970, there was no ultrasound technology in Sumter, South Carolina. So they told my grandmother, there's one child in here. She gives birth. My grandmother is like, there's another baby in here. True story. Doctors are like, nah, it's just the afterbirth. And she's like, nah, there's another baby in here. So she pushes. My mother was behind her sister. Talking about hid with God in Christ. So I was supposed to be here. God snuck me in there through my mother so that I could be with you today. But not just me. You guys have stories like that too when you think about it. Life doesn't work on this me, this personal self. This self that we present to the world that dresses up and tries to look good. Oh, that's fun and games. We love that. But there is a purpose. There's a divine calling. There's a divine consciousness that shows up. And when this personal self takes a knee to it, God does some amazing things in your life. And then you realize you never lack anything. You're never at a loss because the money that shows up in your life, that is God. Say this with me. God is my money.
God is my money.
The health that shows up in your life, God is your health. Say this with me. God is my health. So when you make contact with God, you just made contact with your money. You just made contact with health. When you make contact with God, you make contact with everything you could possibly ever need in principle form. So there's no need to look into the outside world for anything. Time becomes your friend. So when something is not there, it's only because you haven't spoken a word and declared it and put it there. Y'all see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Your life is unfinished and waiting on you to speak the word. Let's wrap this up. Repeat this affirmation with me. Each soul must come to a time when it no longer is satisfied with or seeks external helps. When it knows that the inner revelation of my God to its consciousness can only come to it through an indwelling power, which has been there all the time. And this is spoken by Emily Cady from Lessons in Truth to kind of bring this quote into what we're talking about today. Emily Cady is talking about turning from the outside world of effects and realizing that God is the source of all. And when you identify and make contact with this source in you, then you realize you're lacking nothing. So you stop turning to external help. You turn to God first. So the next time you go to ask someone's opinion, pause and ask myself, did I ask God in me first? Before you seek external anything, did you turn to God first in yourself? Did you find and make contact with God in here? Because the reason why we get wrong answers is because we've asked the wrong source. You got to turn back to God within. You have to seek this first. And then you realize you're not fighting with time. It's not about timing anymore because you're dealing with eternity, timelessness. It's all about who you ask first, what you identify with, what you identify as. And then you get that right in your consciousness, get it right in your mind, you're not lacking anything. Last one. It's all a matter of consciousness. Repeat after me. It's all a matter of consciousness. And when we unfold our spiritual consciousness, or say it with me, shoot. We shall see into omnipresence. And there will be nothing hidden from us. When we refine and spiritualize our consciousness, we shall be able to think of the most distant point in the universe and immediately be there. There is no time or space to one who has unfolded the Christ consciousness. This is from Myrtle Fillmore's Let God Help You. Go back and read that one. Please, 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 if you haven't. If you have, read it again. You can, when you get it right and unfold this Christ within, unfold is a package, meaning it's in you boxed up. So you have to unfold it. You have to let it out. You have to take the packaging off, stir up the gifts that are within you. And when you unfold that thing that we call the Christ consciousness, the Christ awareness, the same power that was demonstrated through Jesus of Nazareth, miracles happen. So it's not about time or space. Time or space are just the dimensions of this third reality that we live in. This third dimension we call Earth. You are a creature that was born into time and space, where time and space is your friend. It's not your enemy. It's not something you're fighting against. You're working with it. And the sooner you tune into the correct source, that correct source is God. I promise you, everything that you feel you are lacking in your life shows up. And you realize it has been there all along. Y'all feel what I'm saying today? Take a deep breath. Let this information metabolize in your mind, in your body, in your spirit. Know that the mind, the me, the personal self is taking in this moment a back seat to the Christ within. And everything that you've been waiting on or waiting with in your life, not only will it show up, it already has. And when you leave here, God will open your eyes to see it. Thank you for listening. Peace and blessings. if you will, our favorite part of the service, the way that we show love, our offering. Moderators are standing by online, I believe, so if you do give online and you are watching online, remember to log on to unitybham.org and click on giving. For those that do give in person, the ushers are making their way forward. LaDonna, take it away.
Okay, everybody. Last week we tried to sing. We didn't do as well as we can. So stand up, please. And we're going to try this again. We're going to do 2 verses today, and then we're going to go right into our closing song. Spirit of gentleness. If you can't sing, you can sway.
Miss Evelyn and Miss Sharon, they're like, you should have told me before service started. Or to borrow your consciousness. Would y'all bless this offering? You want to take the mic, Miss Sharon? She's like, Miss Evelyn.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for these offerings. We see them multiplied and pressed down, overflowing, coming back to us. We see it blessing this ministry, that we may spread the love and joy that unity represents. We give thanks in the name and the presence of the Spirit of God. And so it is. So it is.
Put your hands together for yourself.
Thank you, man, guys. And now for Let There Be Peace on Earth. The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Wherever we are, God is.
Wherever I am,